One of the issues that is real for my clients is that of how to make a blended family work. It is difficult, it's not easy. And for those of you out there who are making your blended family work, please share tips and techniques. You can make your comments to this video to help others learn how to cope or to help others deal with, the novelty of a blended family. Imagine two people. I talk about that all the time, personality differences, emotions, but add blended families, children, raging hormones, teenagers, growing pains, and put all that together in one pot and just stir it up. And you can have real chaos or you can have real beauty. It depends. It could go either way. And that which way depends on the adulting that takes place or the maturity and level of maturity involved in how they choose to handle the blended family. I think the first thing that needs to take place before you enter into an environment with a blended family is understanding what your goals are, not just individualistic goals, but collective goals. Talking to your partner and helping your partner understand from the beginning what your parenting styles are. Because parenting styles can differ. People, they're strict parents and they're permissive parents. But coming to a blended family is not always easy because those two styles, you have to learn how to compromise. And the compromise should not be about you as the parents, but a compromise should be based on, the best outcome for the children or, teenagers or young adults, whatever the case will be. Another thing is understanding that you are, especially if you're the parent that is now coming into this situation, both of you may or may not be coming into the situation, but sometimes you have one parent that has no children and is introduced to a household where they're raising someone else's children. Those children now become your children. And the expectation for that parent is, you know what, I want to be the best parent ever. I want to be the best father or mother to this child. And therefore I have an idea of what needs to be done. And you get in there and all of a sudden you're like, what the what in the Harry Potter carnation is going on here? Things are not the way you thought they would turn out to be. You might have rebellion on your hand. You might have disrespect on your hand to deal with. You might have just a total disregard of you as a person. There's so many other factors that can come into the blended family, trying to get it set up. And then there's those blended families where, yeah, you don't have any of that. It's just easy breezy, beautiful cover girl. But I'm referring to the ones where there's difficulty, where there are character differences, personality differences, or where you yourself are having a hard time just understanding how to deal with the other person's children. The best way to approach a blended family, in my opinion, this is just my opinion. Like I said, first you sit down and discuss parenting. Secondly, you discuss boundaries. Boundaries are the most important in approaching a blended family. Boundaries such as, when I got married and my daughter was already, she was 14 years old. And, I didn't have a child then, but, one of the stipulations for me was if my ex-husband wanted to talk to me about my child, he would have to come to me. He couldn't go directly to her because he hadn't developed a relationship with her as yet. So in order to facilitate that relationship and the development of that relationship, I felt it was necessary for him to come to me to address the issues with me that he had with my daughter so that I could address the issues with her. And that gave us also the ability to have a conversation and a discussion about whether his expectations were realistic or not, or what, if he was blowing things out of proportion, or maybe I wasn't, addressing the thing that he wanted me to address immediately. Regardless, that approach that I use allowed us both to benefit and also allowed my daughter to benefit because he had a great relationship with her. It wasn't one where it was bad cop, good cop. It was more one where she got to know him for who he was. And the development of that relationship facilitated respect to the point, at some point, he was able to speak to her directly by himself. But the immediate approach allowed me to be the intermediary instead of him having to compromise the development of that relationship. So boundaries are very important. You need to set boundaries from the beginning, how you want to engage in the blended family. You don't wait till you get thrown into it and then say, oh my God, I want to do this, or this should have been done. No, it has to be preemptive. It has to be something that you sit down and discuss before you even get involved in the children's life, or create a life together. So parenting is important. You're understanding your parenting styles, setting boundaries and expectations. What are your expectations for this family? What are your short-term expectations and what are your long-term expectations? Where do you see yourself and how do you see your relationship with this family? Do you want the respect that is so valuable to most parents who are being joined as a blended family? Do you want to create and foster that environment of respect? Because respect brings that love and that understanding and that acceptance that every blended family needs in order to thrive. So you have to parenting, boundaries, expectations. And then the fourth and final one, in my opinion, I mean, there's so many things you can research blended families online. I'm sure there are other YouTube videos out here about blended families. But for me, the fourth thing is really, really important. That is patience, but patience tempered with empathy, the ability to empathize, the ability to be patient and understand that these children are not an extension of yourself, and they probably never will be. It doesn't mean that you cannot influence them. It doesn't mean that you cannot get to know them. It doesn't mean that they cannot learn to love you as an individual or a person. But the patience, it says love is patient, love is kind. If you're patient with the process and not impatient, that makes all the difference. If you're impatient, it doesn't matter how many boundaries, how much expectations, how much you've discussed parenting, that impatience knocks everything else out. Give it time. Time is a value. Time is a discipline. It is something that is required so that the outcomes that you and your significant other are looking for are accomplished and achieved. And I know there are a lot of times when a blended family comes together that one parent or sometimes both don't want the other person to speak to their children, to discipline their children. That doesn't have to be a long-term thing. But like I described earlier, it could be short-term for the sake of building and establishing relationships and rapport. And then you can revisit your expectations and your boundaries once you both have acclimated to the whole notion of the blended family. I hope these tips were helpful. I mean, there's so many other things to do, but I think that these four areas and applying these four things are necessary in order to approach the blended family. Instead of creating hostility or resentment or dealing with things inappropriately that will strain your relationship with your partner, foster this from the onset, foster it before you even approach the blended family, and hopefully it will have the outcomes that you truly desire. My name is Ingrid Felton. As always, thank you for visiting my YouTube channel. Thank you for subscribing to the videos. Thank you for your comments. Your comments are really required on this video because there's so many other things that people can benefit from and learn from each other. Sharing is caring. Thank you and have a great day. Bye.